Victor's secretary smirked, holding up the incriminating video. Undeniable proof of their affair. He's in control now, just like he was with all his previous assistants, she taunted, her voice laced with amusement. And tonight, he expects you to publicly surrender to him before the senior partners. A surge of fury burned through me, but I forced myself to remain composed. They had no idea I was already orchestrating my own revenge. I always considered myself patient, someone who could withstand any storm without faltering. But that day, I learned a harsh truth. Patience could be easily mistaken for weakness. And in the ruthless world I inhabited, weakness was a luxury no one could afford. My name is Clara Rohr, and for the past 3 years, I had dedicated every ounce of my effort to one of Zurich's most prestigious financial firms. My boss, Victor Mueller, was everything I had aspired to become: sharp, influential, and unyielding. His presence was magnetic, a perfect blend of authority and refinement that made him both respected and feared. I had admired him, regarded him as a mentor, someone who had guided me when I was just another junior associate fighting to be seen. It was meant to be an honor. I had given him my loyalty in every possible way. But loyalty, I realized too late, was a currency often spent without ever seeing a return. It all started with a simple text: urgent meeting, 5 p.m. I didn't think twice about it. Victor was a man of few words, and his messages were always direct and professional. But the moment I stepped into his office, I sensed something was wrong. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating. It was as if the walls themselves were closing in around me. Victor sat at his desk, his eyes fixed on his laptop, a faint crease between his brows. "Come in, Clara," he said, his voice steady yet carrying an undertone I couldn't quite place. As I entered, my pulse quickened when I noticed Elena Weber standing near the door, Victor's personal secretary, a woman who exuded power and confidence. Tall, impeccably dressed, with icy blonde hair that never seemed out of place, Elena had a way of gliding through life, leaving only whispers in her wake. I had never liked her, but until that moment, I had no reason to distrust her. Her gaze met mine, a glint of something almost predatory in her expression. I ignored it. "What's this about?" I asked, keeping my voice level. Victor didn't respond immediately. Instead, he gestured toward Elena, who stepped forward with deliberate grace. Without a word, she reached into her bag and pulled out a tablet. She handed it to me. The screen flickered to life, the footage grainy at first, but soon sharpening into something unmistakable. Victor and Elena, their laughter, the way they leaned into each other, the secret touches, the unspoken intimacy between them. I felt my chest tighten. They weren't just colleagues. They were lovers. The weight of betrayal settled in my stomach like a stone. My voice wavered as I finally spoke. "Elena, what is this?" She smiled, smug and condescending. "Oh, Clara," she purred, "don't act so shocked. Victor is mine. He's always been mine. Just like every assistant before you." Her words dripped with triumph, as though I had been nothing more than a predictable piece in a game she had already won. "You were just another passing interest, a temporary indulgence. And now it's time for you to understand your place." I turned to Victor, desperate for some kind of denial, some sign that this wasn't what it seemed. But he didn't even meet my eyes. He remained focused on his screen, as if this entire conversation was just another trivial exchange in his schedule. The urge to scream, to confront him, to demand answers clawed at me. But I knew giving them a reaction would only hand them the victory they sought. I took a deep breath, forcing my anger beneath a mask of control. "Elena, I began," my voice steady despite the fire raging inside me. But she didn't let me finish. "Tonight," she interrupted coldly, "Victor expects you to obey. In front of the senior partners, he expects you to submit. You need to prove your loyalty, to show that you understand your place." The words struck like a physical blow. Submit? How had I been so blind? How had I been foolish enough to believe that my trust in Victor held any significance to him? I was nothing more than another assistant, a replaceable cog in his grand machine. I stood frozen, keeping my expression unreadable, but inside, everything was collapsing. That was the moment I made my choice. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The following days passed in a haze. Outwardly, I moved through the motions, but beneath the surface, a plan was taking shape. I refused to let them humiliate me. Not now, not ever. I began watching them more closely at work, positioning myself nearby during meetings, noting every subtle glance, every hushed conversation between them. Neither Elena nor Victor had any clue that I was mentally cataloging each of their interactions. I couldn't confront them, not yet. But I could collect information, and that was exactly what I did. I started trailing Victor after hours, parking a few blocks away from his usual haunts, careful to stay out of sight, but close enough to catch anything suspicious. At first, it felt like chasing shadows. But soon, I noticed a pattern. Victor and Elena would rendezvous at a discreet cafe, far from familiar faces. I didn't need to hear their conversations to know that what transpired between them had nothing to do with work. One evening, after they had both left the cafe, I made my move. I waited until their cars disappeared down the street, then slipped into the alley behind the building. There, discarded in the shadows, I found an unmarked envelope inside. I uncovered more than just paperwork. Photographs. Images of Victor and Elena in compromising positions. Evidence that confirmed their affair. But that wasn't all. The documents revealed something far worse. They weren't just lovers. They were co-conspirators in a scheme that could bring down the very company I had given years of my life to. At that moment, the full scope of their betrayal became clear. They hadn't just deceived me. They were playing a dangerous game, and I was going to be the one to end it. The night of the dinner, the senior partners gathered in an opulent ballroom, their laughter and the clinking of crystal glasses filling the air. Victor, ever the charming leader, stood at the center, basking in their admiration. Elena was at his side, radiating confidence. The sight of them made my stomach turn. They thought they were untouchable. They thought I was just another casualty, another forgotten assistant to be discarded once I had served my purpose. They had no idea what was coming. I stood in the shadows at the back of the room, waiting. As the lights dimmed and Victor took the stage to address the partners, I quietly activated the projector I had set up in the corner. The screen flickered to life. Then the room fell silent. Laughter and conversation faded into stunned silence as the footage played. Victor and Elena, their secret moments exposed for all to see. The way they touched, the way they whispered. There was no denying what the images revealed. For the first time, Victor's mask cracked. Fear flickered in his eyes. Elena stiffened beside him, her confidence momentarily shaken. She turned to Victor, her face pale. "Clara," Victor started, but his voice wavered. He had no defense, no prepared excuse. I stepped forward, my voice steady, controlled. "You thought you could break me, that you could humiliate me, and I'd simply fall in line like all the others before me. You were wrong." Around the room, the partners, once loyal to Victor, now looked at him with suspicion. Their trust in him had shattered. The power he had wielded for so long was slipping through his fingers, and he had no way to stop it. As I turned and walked away from the ballroom, a sense of relief settled over me. I had expected satisfaction, revenge, but what I felt was something else. Justice wasn't about dramatic confrontations or explosive moments. It was about truth, and the truth had a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply someone tried to bury it. I stepped into the cool night air, a new chapter ahead of me. The betrayal still stung, and the scars it left would take time to heal. But one thing was certain. No one gets away with betrayal. Not forever. Patience is power. And silence? It speaks louder than any scream. Because in the end, the truth always has the final say.